I am at Socrates Sculpture Park today. There is a mystery to this park that I don't think anybody has an answer to, or I don't think anybody can solve. I was made aware of this. It's been a long time that I've had this little mystery in the back of my head, that something that I could seriously research. But about half the perimeter of the park is surrounded by stones, tombstones to be exact. A long time ago, the story is that, and this was handed down to me by a reliable source, back in the 1980s, St. Michael's Cemetery in Astoria was a dump. It was a total dump. It was so overgrown you might not even know there was a cemetery in there. So new ownership took over and cleaned up the place. They mowed the lawn. And then their first order of business was to knock down a whole bunch of tombstones, throw them in the back of a truck, and then throw 6 feet of dirt on top of all the burials, so they could start selling more burials on top of the old ones. And they were within their right to do this, or at least they said they were, because nobody had made perpetual care payments on these things for generations. But the tombstones were hauled here, which at the time, this was an illegal dumping ground. It later became Socrates Park, and when they started building the park out, they discovered all these tombstones. And they said, what the hell, let's use them to build the wall around the park. So as we'll see in a second, I don't think there's any question that the wall is made out of some kind of tombstone and funerary markers, but I don't think they're from St. Michael's. And the goal of my research, if I'm going to follow through with this, would be to identify whose tombstones were knocked down at the cemetery and whose tombstones were hauled out here. I want to identify those people and put some kind of a plaque or a memorial in their honor, in their memory, because it's not fair that some people's memory gets erased, and under such circumstances. But I just don't think these stones are actually from St. Michael's. They got to be from some other cemetery. Most of what you see are these square blocks. They look like a child's toy. And these kind of stones are generic to a lot of cemeteries. I don't know about all, but they are used to as sort of a placeholder. This letter B would have been next to the burial site of someone whose last name started with B. And they put that there just as a reminder of where to put the tombstone when the time comes to set it up. But then other evidence that this is from some kind of cemetery is in this form, where you see lot, and many cemeteries designate areas as lots. And then here you see a number, 2,615. And here's where I think that these stones are not from St. Michael's, because St. Michael's doesn't have lots, it has plots. And it also doesn't have grade numbering in this format. 2,615. This doesn't resemble any of the naming conventions that I've found anywhere at the cemetery. That's why I think these came from some other cemetery. And nobody here seems to know which one it was, making it impossible to know whose burials were, whose But here you see some more of the square letters. There's a couple more. And here you see another lot block. And again, this is what makes me think these can't be from St. Michael's, because St. Michael's doesn't have lots, it has plots. And I've looked the map over many times and there's no lot. They never use that word. And this is the only full name, as far as I can recall, that is visible on this wall. And it's not very helpful, unfortunately. Because I searched some burial records for a variety of cemeteries around here, and this name did not come up. And here's another number, which is inconsistent with anything from St. Michael. So this looks like the beginning of somebody's name. Stevens, maybe, I don't know. And there's a letter S next to it. It's a little eerie when you think about it, but it surprises me that the park would have just deliberately and knowingly used tombstones to build a wall, but I guess maybe there's some artistic statement in there. So what would I have to do to make anything come of this little piece of what I guess you'd call trivia? I mean, I would have to do some research. It's probably beyond my resources into identifying whose burials were knocked over. But if we don't know what cemetery it was from, there's no point. I've only seen one article about this, and I think it was from Untapped Cities. It was just a very short piece about the park, and mentioned in passing that the wall was made out of tombstones and that nobody at the park knows where they came from. The person who told me it was St. Michael's was the local historian, and I've scouted this question out to a small number of genealogists and people like me who have an interest in cemeteries, and nobody knows where they came from, and they had not heard about it until I told them. But if it was going to be written up anywhere, it would have been in one of those hyper-local news sites like the Queen's Chronicle or Astoria Times or something like that. So I'd have to go to the library and read through the microfiche copies, which are said to be available, but libraries are all closed now, of course. Or they only have partial service now.